Welcome to the Felt Dyslexic Artist Interview. My name is Liz Buckridge. For me, as a dyslexic artist, other artists and creatives have always been my number one inspiration. In these interviews, we talk with artists and creatives who share their stories and we gain insight into their process from career tips to inspiration and more. We're so lucky to listen to the wisdom of Robert Rust today. I'm so excited to hear about his past and future projects and listen to insights on life as an artist. Hi there.
Hi.
I'm going to jump right in. Describe
Jump
the
right
art.
in.
I'm going to jump right in. Describe the art you make. What medium do you primarily work in, and why do you choose that medium?
I'm primarily, I'd say, an abstract painter. I do other things, sculpture, collage, drawing, love drawing, but mainly abstract painting. I use a lot of like house paints, uh, found paints, mismatches, because they're cheap. So that kind of forms helps me to, choose what colors you're going to wear. It takes a little guesswork out of it. Um, but yeah, mostly abstract painting, I'd say is my main thing.
Do you work in any other mediums?
Um, I mean, with sculpture, I'd use anything, found objects. Um, I use a lot of, the repetition of objects I've made sculptures out of. So if I find, 100 boxes of pencils, I'll make a sculpture out of them or something. Um, and then the painting, like oil paints I've used also and stuff, spray paints sometimes. But yeah, I really kind of mix it up when I get that urge to do something different.
I love that. How did you get into making art? Can you tell us about your background and how you first became interested in art?
Probably my father was an artist, so that influenced me to want to be like him. Uh, I see some of his drawings and paintings, and to me they're like, wow, that's incredible. So I started drawing pretty young and really loved drawing. Uh, and of course, people took notice and encouraged me, and I get pencils and paints for Christmas and pads and stuff. But that really kind of got me going early on, and just took off from there, really.
Love that. So, how did you get into your specific style?
Uh, that's a tough one. Uh, I wouldn't say I have a specific style. Um, I work a lot in series, so I'll kind of get an idea and I'll just jump in. I'll try something and then see if this works, and if it catches fire with me, um, I'll keep doing them, and until it almost like burns itself out, it wears itself out. I don't have the same excitement, so I move on to something a little different. Uh, but there's always a thread there. For me, it's always kind of the same thing in a different guise. The idea is the same. It just looks a little different, and someone might say like, "Oh, I see the similarities, but it's very different from what you were doing before." Um, so that kind of signature style, it changes. I like to do a lot of things. Like I said, I like to paint, but I'll sculpt. I'm a musician also, so when that kind of gets me, and sometimes I need a break from the art. Music is this place to go that fills that need to clear my head, but it's the same thing. It's like painting with sound. Like, chords are the colors. Um, Even like a painting, sometimes I think musically about it, how it vibrates and kind of sings to me in a way. Uh, So yeah, I just again follow that that kind of inspiration as it comes.
What themes or subjects inspire your work?
Um, Really the world around me, of course. I always liked landscape. Um, when I was younger, painting landscape, drawing landscape. I like drawing anything. When I was young, I'd get into just copying things, and I'd see art that I liked, and I'd copy the art. Um, Later, I really started thinking more spiritual about the art, metaphysical, trying to create something that uh, was the idea in my head about how the world actually is, not the way I see it. And I've been taught to see it, how like this is that, this is a tree, that's a house. Um, I always felt there was something more going on behind the scenes than just what I saw. And that's why abstraction really kind of caught me, where I could paint more like a feeling or something. But those are kind of the themes that really later took over, combined with landscape, but more seeing things as behind the scenes. What's the true makeup of the reality we see, and trying to kind of find that, capture it somehow.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you consider yourself neurodivergent or neurotypical?
As we were saying before, we talked about this a little bit, but those things weren't those words didn't exist when I was growing up, and even thinking that way. Um, Never thought of being different. I thought I was normal, like everybody else. And then as I got a little older as a kid, I was like, yeah, nobody really thinks like me. They don't want to do the same things I do. Like I said, like obsessed with drawing things, and you know, and at times in school, the teacher would be like, okay, we're going to put you over here because you don't really want to engage with the other kids. You want to just draw on things. And as I got older too, like I got along with people a lot better. But what I was really into, other people weren't into. And if I talked about it, most people didn't really understand what I was talking about, didn't really care. So I came to realize maybe part of me is neurodivergent. And I feel normal, and I'm normal and divergent. So, it's I think being an artist, you have to have that way of looking at things that just isn't quite right. Which I like to think of it that way, like, if everybody thought this way, it wouldn't be quite as interesting, I guess. But yeah.
Cool. Have you faced any challenges or setbacks in your art career, and how did you overcome them?
Um, I don't think I've really faced setbacks. Um, Probably I would say the two setbacks would be time and space. Um, Making the time to do it, finding the space to do it in. Uh, no, I found out, like I was talking about, people don't really get it, when you've got some crazy idea about the universe, or, the way I see things. So, to make the time could be difficult because there was 100 things to pull me away from making art, whether it's people, the world, the job, um, and then finding space. I always found the space. I would make art in my kitchen if I had to. I would build a studio. So, but at times I felt like I was being selfish, like shutting people out, or not, I'm sorry, I don't want to go there because I'm really into the making this piece, and I have to, that obsession in a way. So, um, but those were probably the main setbacks that I would have to face, still do. So
I get it. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Connecticut. I was born in Hartford. When I was young, we lived in Glastonbury, Connecticut, and it was an interesting time. It was a cool place. When I was sixth grade, we moved to East Hampton, Connecticut. And that's where I had a few friends. I had friends in Glastonbury, but when I moved to East Hampton, I really met my people. Um, and one of my best friends was an artist, so we connected, and we had a small kind of core group of friends that was really great and supported each other artistically, musically. That's where I went to high school, and so that's really where I grew up, is those two places.
Did you do art when you were a little kid?
Yes,
Do you remember it?
yes. As I said, I drew constantly. Um, one of my earliest memories was I got into clipper ships. Pictures of them, I thought they were fascinating, the way they looked, the sails, the way they were built. And I would just draw these things, and the big ones, the small ones. And that's where, I think my teachers were like, you're really into these clipper ships for some reason. And you're like, yeah, who wouldn't be? And I remember when I was young, Andy Warhol's art struck me, actually, pop art. Um, and I saw like a validation in that. Like I loved like candy wrappers and soda cans and the colors and like advertising. And I would, same thing, I'd draw soda cans in magic marker and kind of like being like Andy Warhol and candy bars and stuff, and uh, really loved it. So I did all that at a young age, and just again kept going.
Do you have a favorite colorway for your art? And is the colorway or palette for your art different or the same as the colors in your house?
Uh, I don't think I have a favorite colorway. I love color. Um, I kind of go back and forth with, sometimes I love working with neutrals and color. I love the way colors work and play against each other, like that vibration that can happen. Um, Black and white is always a good test to see where your compositions are on things. And at times we have like, let's really get into a room and use the art and the paint the walls, and so I do like doing that. We we moved recently, so we've hung some art here, but uh, we haven't really gone for it yet. But so I do have that colorway going sometimes, but it can go anywhere. Like I really love color, so you never know how it's going to turn out.
Describe the space where you make your art these days.
These days I made a studio in my basement. So I do some art there. I work in the yard. We have a small yard in the back, so when the weather's okay, I'll work in the yard. We've got a place in Charlestown too that I'll go and work there in the yard. But usually I need, like I said, I've worked in the house when I have to, but a lot of times I make a mess, like a lot of liquid paint that's flying all over. So I need somewhere where I can destroy basically. So, but that's where I'm working right now here.
How did your school system support your interest in art growing up?
Um, yeah, when I was young, they were very supportive because they saw I could draw early on. And then when I started painting, I really took to that. my father helped me out a bit. Like he'd kind of show me, I'd be stuck on a painting and he'd come over and just it would look beautiful. And I'm like, okay, that's how you do that. So by the time I got to high school, I could paint pretty well. I'd been like, you know, inspired in grade school and stuff, but in high school, I could paint really well already. I could draw, and my teacher, my mentor, Alfred Blanchard, really took me under his wing. Me and my friend, who could we could both kick ass. I mean, and he he saw something in us, and me especially, and he really taught me about life. He sequestered us in our own room away from the other students so we could paint and really be like, um, he didn't like us being distracted. He didn't like me being distracted by the girls, partying and stuff like that. Um, he really was a great teacher, and he was going to stop teaching. He was a teacher at Wesleyan University. He stayed my 4 years to teach me. So he was amazing. And I think my senior year, it was his junior or senior year, I forget, he failed me one semester. And I was like, you failed me? I mean, I'm the best artist in the school, you know? And I was furious, you know, and my parents were upset. How could you fail art? But he went and told my parents, like, he's not using his potential. He's distracted. And he pulls a maneuver. And then he talked to me about it, and I was like, okay, so I was more worried about my parents, but that's the lengths he took to drive it into me that, this is something you have a talent for, and you should do it. And again, to this day, he's my mentor. He died years ago, unfortunately, but he was the guy in the school system. I went to college after and had some good teachers, but not like him. I was lucky to have him.
That's cool. How do you see your work evolving or changing in the future? What do you have planned?
That one's a tough one too, because there is no future. Uh, I try to really stay in the present moment. Again, that's one of my kind of spiritual things. I say that half jokingly, but I try not to think about the future. I try not to get into what ifs and planning. I'll plan what's really necessary, but I I don't I do in my head, but I try and stop myself. I don't create some fantasy for me at this point in my life. Um, I have goals and things I want to work for, but I really try and focus on what's right in front of me, and try to stay grounded in that.
Wow. Is making art an emotional process for you or a strategic process?
That's a dual question. Yeah, I want to say it's emotional, because it's kind of what I'm going for. It's living. It's living in this life that we don't understand half the time, and we've been so indoctrinated with stuff to see it sometimes. But at the same time, to create a work of art, you have to be a little strategic. At times, you got to plan some moves and stuff, and maybe make those adjustments, but then you've kind of got to just let go and stop thinking, and then the creating happens, and that's when it's the best. So it's a little of both, I think. And I think for me, it's a little more emotional than just process and strategic moves and building something structurally. So
Same. Can you walk us through your creative process from idea to finished piece?
yeah, so if I have an idea, that idea just festers in my mind for a long time. Usually I think about it. I kind of will dream about it sometimes, but I'll start creating a piece of art in my head first, you know. And then kind of when I'm ready to go, I kind of dive right in and take this chance of seeing if the idea will work. Um, Especially with abstraction, I'm not going on anything kind of that you can see that I can just copy or things. So I've got to kind of have a feel for what I'm going to do, what I want to do. Again, think about it, and then I just start making moves and stuff and failing a lot. Sometimes what I think would work doesn't work, and it can be kind of heartbreaking. I mean, that's part of that. I think painting isn't always joyful. Um, I love it sometimes, but sometimes it just breaks my heart when something doesn't work. Um, I have a tendency to destroy paintings. I'll paint over them just because I'm like, I don't even want to try to fix it. And my wife is really good, she'll stop me at times like, don't mess with that painting anymore when I'm thinking about like just destroying it. So, um, but that usually is kind of the process I go through from idea to a finished piece. And, there's never a time limit. I mean, sometimes a piece will take a freaking year or something. Sometimes it happens fast, but when it's that process of a new endeavor, uh, it can be a difficult process, but then when it starts flowing, it's worth the effort.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you combine the art you love to make and the art you sell?
Another tough one. I really make art for myself. Uh, always have. I've 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 gotten into the place where I started doing art where um I was making landscapes and watercolors and they were nice and I was dealing with abstraction too, but I thought, well, these might sell. And I love doing them. I do love realistic painting and getting kind of into that in this process of doing it. Um, But as an example, I was doing that, and I was selling paintings, and I was making some money, and this is around 2001, 9/11 hit. And after that, I really thought about life, and it could all be gone tomorrow. And I kind of said to myself, I'm not making art to sell anymore. I don't care if it's on the side, I'm going to do what I want to do. I want to do my vision, and that's what I'm going to do. And that's when my wife and I actually moved to New York. We went into the fire, and I said, if I'm going to do this, we're gonna go in. I want to be in that environment where I'm inspired in a way, and where there's art and there's music, and never look back. Um, but I still kind of walk that line of even though I'm doing the art I love, it's like, well, I could use this color. Somebody might like it more. And I try not to. I try to just stick to what I want to do. So, and it will sell, it's not all the time, but, if it's meant to, it's meant to. I try not to let art be sacred either. Like it's something special. It's just a painting. Um, I might see other people's paintings as something sacred, but it can go away. Somebody wants to, I'd almost rather give it away a lot of times. If somebody loves it, I kind of want them to have it. So.
So how do people find your art to purchase, to actually purchase?
Uh, Probably my website is the best place to go. And I've had galleries, I've worked with galleries selling art. Word of mouth a lot is good for selling art. It's funny, I occasionally play golf. I've sold paintings playing golf, I've told people, because it's one of these people, like, what do you do? You paint, really? Oh, could I see some? And they end up buying pieces. So I never know where I'm going to sell art. But for now, yeah, my website's probably the best place.
What's the name of the website?
It's robertrustartist.com.
All right, well, we'll put that information in the show notes. Can you share a piece, a recent project or a piece of work that you're particularly happy about?
Yes, I do have a piece.
Ooh. We'll be right back. This is good.
I forgot that was part of the
That was cool.
deal.
Oh,
So,
hey.
so this is one of the series I've been working on recently. Um, it's using enamel, again, house paints, latexes, um, obviously doing like drips. But with these paintings, I've been thinking a lot about what we're talking about of seeing the world and even thinking scientifically about how the world is actually made up, like it's atoms and we're on a rock spinning 360,000 miles an hour through space. Uh, how is it we can see things and interpret them? We've been taught what things are, um, but the way our brain filters color and creates this in our minds, really, subatomic particles. So a lot of this stuff is what I was thinking. So I create something in the background that's an abstract, say, landscape, and then I basically cover it up. I obscure it. And I think that's what I'm trying to relay, that we don't always see what's back there in reality, whether it's opinion, even just other people and stuff. We make judgments. We filter information, we make a judgment, and we don't always see what's right in front of us. And again, like the vibrations of light and color to make form and mass, and so all these things are going into these series of paintings right now.
I love it. I love it. How do you stay motivated as an artist?
Um, that's a tough one too. Um, Inspiration is a big part of it when you kind of get excited about an idea and you're inspired. And then motivation really comes from myself. Uh, and I try to really motivate myself to do something. One of the things my mentor said was, you've got to do a little something every day, even if it's for 5 minutes. And I don't always, but I try to do that. And even if I say I'm going to do 10 minutes, I'm going to go into the studio and work for 10 minutes, it'll turn into an hour or 2 hours. So, um, I just try and hold that line and just keep myself motivated. But when I'm inspired, it's not a problem. So I can't wait to get back at it and work on that piece and make it work. So
Yeah. Are there any artists or creatives who have influenced or inspired your work?
um, I was really inspired by the abstract expressionists, of course. Willem de Kooning, Jackson Pollock, love Frank Stella. Um, Early on, I really loved Van Gogh, just because of the way he painted and the power of it. Um, saw some Van Gogh paintings when I was young, and they really blew me away. Um, so they were a big inspiration for me to kind of be a little bigger with my art, like make that move from kind of, I still consider myself an amateur, really, but they pushed me to finding more artists and really discovering more inspiration.
What advice would you give to an aspiring artist looking to pursue a career in the arts?
I'd say go for it. Um, it's can really be a great career. I mean, there's so many things you can do with art. I originally wanted to be an illustrator because that's what my father went to school to be a kind of an illustrator, and he could really paint and draw well. Um, so there's a lot of avenues that you can have a career in. But then there's making art for art's sake and this whole other world of being creative. That's a little tougher. I would say think about it, like if you have a niche that you're really good at, take that and run with it and make some money. Find some good people to help you. But if you don't, if you want to make art, it can be tough, no doubt. You have to be willing to kind of, I think, sacrifice, as I said, time and space. Money can get you time and space. I've most of the time I've worked jobs that aren't related to art. I have worked jobs in art and painting or with that skill set. But I found, if I have to make money some other way, it is a good way to support my doing my own art, and it keeps my brain fresh to make my own art. So either way, I'd say go for it. There's a lot out there to do and experience in the world of art.
Yeah. Yeah. What is your favorite book, movie, song, podcast?
Book, I'd say Moby Dick, oddly enough. I know Melville, man. But I read Moby Dick when I was young, and it fascinated me. Again, I love clipper ships and drawing, and something about the way he wrote, it took me to a different world. And later Jaws was kind of the same thing, right? Same story. And I later read Moby Dick again when I was older. So I've read it twice, and it was a whole other book, like in what being older, a little more knowledgeable, a little wiser. I found all these things that he was writing that I was like, I don't remember that the first time I read it. And it really struck me. It really had an impact on me. A book I'd recommend that I really love, Agony and the Ecstasy by Irving Stone. Maybe not my favorite book, but I really love that book. I mean, it did inspire me, that world and what he went through, Michelangelo, to make art, and he pulls in a lot of different directions. Great book. Movie. Movie, I'd say favorite movie is Blade Runner. The Philip K. Dick story. I always love that movie. And come back to it again and again. And again, I always notice different things in it. Music. My favorite song is All Cats Are Gray by The Cure. An old one, but I come back to that song almost when I need something. I say Brotherhood by New Order, the album is one of my all-time favorites. Loveless from My Bloody Valentine, one of my favorites too. What else was there? Podcasts. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts, so I can't really recommend one objectively.
And then you already
Except
said,
yours.
oh, mine, yes, this one. And then you already said what book you recommend to people. I mean, let's see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'd say that one.
What do you want to talk about that I didn't ask?
Um, I'll just talk a little bit about music, making music, how all the different arts. I think, when we say art, people think of painting, really, and sculpture and that. But all the other arts, whether it's like dancing and architecture, there's so much. What is an art? But music especially is such a special form. Um, it happens in your brain. You hear this thing and talk about emotion. It really stirs up emotion. I don't know anybody that doesn't like music. Um, but it's really the same elements. Those notes are like colors. Um, Creating a song is like creating a painting. I know musicians that talk about hearing colors. Um, One of my favorite, I played in a band, Kristen Hirsch, and she talks about it a lot. Like she hears colors and that's what her music is. And, like she's brilliant, it's a great way to think of things. I think Ozzy Osbourne said, I taste colors. So, uh, but that'll be my, yeah, what I talk about just a little bit.
Yeah, I love that synesthesia, right? Is that what it's
Yeah,
called?
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Synesthesia.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for talking with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I felt inspired for sure. I don't know, like I'm kind of obsessed with that one right there, that painting. I can't see it, but it's so good. I love the colors. Oh,
Thanks.
so yummy. Well, much love. Yeah, and we'll see you next time. Yay!
Bye.